Hi guys, I'm DFX, and this is my top 4 Star Trek Voyager episode countdown. Let's get into it. Okay, my number 4 episode is a very special episode that aired in season 3, episode 2, and it was for the 30th anniversary of Star Trek. Tuvok experiences some debilitating childhood memory of a time where he couldn't save somebody, and in turn, Janeway has to mind meld with him, which takes them to memories of when Tuvok served on the Excelsior with Captain Sulu, which he's also a special guest star in this episode, along with Grace Lee Whitney, who plays Commander Rand, and a couple other thrown in special guests that actually reprised their roles from Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Very good episode. I want to admit this, I had not seen this episode in several years, but it all made sense to me and how it all tied together the events of this mind meld that Janeway does with Tuvok and the events of Star Trek VI. It's very, very cool to see them recreate some of the stuff that happened in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, in this episode. But yeah, this was a 30th anniversary episode that aired on September 18th. This aired on September 11th, 1996. Interesting. Anyway, let's move on to number 3. Okay, number 3 on my top 4 Star Trek Voyager countdown list here is Timeless. This aired in season 5 and it was episode 6. This is kind of like a time travel episode. 15 years after Voyager crash landed on an icy planet, Harry Kim and Chakotay try to figure out how to restore the timeline and so the crash doesn't happen. Very interesting. This also has a special guest appearance by LeVar Burton, who plays Geordi LaForge from Next Generation. And he kind of orders Harry Kim not to proceed with this plan. It's all interesting. Like, they really, because of some miscalculation Harry made 15 years prior, it threw them off course and made Voyager crash. But finally, Harry nails it down and sends a message to 7 of 9 to cut their newly acquired slipstream drive. But yeah, and they restore the timeline. But very interesting. I always like the time travel episodes for some reason. But let's move on. Okay, my number 2 episode here on my countdown from Star Trek Voyager, my favorite episodes, is Scorpion. Now, this is Scorpion Part 1 and Part 2. That Scorpion 1 aired Season 3, Episode 26, and Scorpion Part 2 aired in episode of Season 4, Episode 1. Now, this is a 2-part episode, but for the purposes of this, I've made it 1 episode. Basically, this episode is the introduction of 7 of 9, Jerry Ryan's character, and a new enemy, even more deadlier than the Borg, better known as Species 8472. Now, these guys were like a new creature. I think the first time they did a little more CGI stuff too for Voyager, but these guys basically could wipe out the Borg, and this was amazing. So Janeway forms an alliance with the Borg to try to stop this species from destroying them. Very, very kind of cool. Like I said, they elected a drone to represent them, and kind of like they did for how Jean-Luc Picard, was Locutus, and they acted on that. So they got Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9. But yeah, in the end, this 2-part episode just kind of pushed the limits of Voyager. Like, I hadn't watched this episode in several years. I forgotten even how Jerry Ryan got on board Voyager in the first place. So this was cool. Yeah, go check it out. Let's move on. And finally, my number 1 episode here on my top 4 Star Trek Voyager countdown is Year of Hell. Has a very special guest star, Kurtwood Smith. You might know him from That 70s Show. He played the dad, but he also played the Federation president in Star Trek VI. So another tie-in, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. But basically, this guy is the leader of the Cayman Empire, and also he owns a time ship, and he's trying to alter the timeline so he doesn't lose his wife that passes away. But entail causes basically a year of traumatic events happening to the Voyager and its crew, Janeway, Chakotay, Tuvok, just everybody. And they even updated Neelix to be an actual ranking member of the crew, not the chef he usually plays. So this is very emotional episode. A lot of stuff with the Prime Directive that kind of gets thrown out the window because in the end they're trying to restore the timeline to the correct timeline. And yeah, just because this guy didn't want to lose his wife. So yeah, very emotional episode for him as well. But in the end, Janeway and crew are successful and they restore the timeline. But it took 2 episodes to do it. So, okay, guys, that's my top 4 favorite Star Trek Voyager episodes. What are yours? List them in the comments below. We'll get a conversation going. And we're going to do this again really soon as I give you my top 4 Star Trek Enterprise episodes. But until next time, live long and prosper. Thanks for watching. See you soon.